Follow us on Facebook at Daunta A. Long. Follow us on Instagram at Daunta Long. Follow us on YouTube at Daunta A. Long. Thank you for tuning in to LongTalk.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Long Talk on this Tuesday evening. Trust that you have gotten off to a good start this week and pray that you've had a great Tuesday, and I hope that it has been a terrific Tuesday for you thus far. And as you are settling and coming on here this evening, I wish to say to you, I want you to enjoy the rest of this evening with a meaningful dialogue that we call Long Talk. And I appreciate you taking the time to come on and join this conversation. Here at Long Talk, it's always our aim and our goal to make sure that we provide meaningful dialogue to each of our listeners and providing real life solutions and providing practical strategies that you may utilize in your everyday life. And we always do this with you in mind because we wish that our Long Talk conversations have the best benefit to your life on a daily basis. And so again, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I would that if you are watching us tonight, please take just a moment and follow us here at Long Talk. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're also on Twitter, and then lastly, we're on YouTube. All of these platforms. If you're on Facebook tonight, would you go ahead and like and share this Long Talk this evening? If you're on Instagram, follow us. Twitter, please stay engaged with our active Twitter community. And then, guys, if you're on YouTube tonight, please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, because I want you to stay up to date as we have meaningful dialogue that we are sharing this week that's going to really be a blessing to each of you and your lives. Okay. All right. So please do that and stay connected to Long Talk. And I want to say this, that on today has been a very busy day because today has been National Voter Registration Day, and it's not over. Even while we're here right now in this moment, please take a moment and send a text out to your family members, your friends, and ask them, have you registered? And if you get a reply, no, stop what you're doing. Even if you're watching us here on Long Talk, I'm giving you permission tonight to stop what you're doing and lead them to a pathway to get them registered to vote. Today is the day, a very special day that we have set aside all over the country to make sure that individuals like you and I and our family members, our neighbors, our friends, our coworkers, our classmates, everybody that we have influence with, that we all are registered to vote to make sure that we get an opportunity to allow our voices to be heard. And the reason why this is so significant is because this is the year that, as you already know, it's a presidential election year. There are many meaningful Senate seats that are up for grabs. There are county seats. There are city elections. There are just elections on every level of government. And so this is why you need to do that. And so listen, today is that day. But listen, the very last day that anyone can get registered to vote is on Monday, October the 5th. Monday, October the 5th. And so I want you to make sure that you do all you can with all diligence. Please make sure that you do everything within your power to make sure everybody that you have influence with is registered to vote. All right. All right. Well, listen, here on Long Talk tonight, boy, we've got some information tonight that we want to share with everybody. If ever there was a time that you want to tune in and stay engaged in tonight's dialogue, tonight is that night. And I want to give you just a few moments. Those that needed to help somebody vote, if you've already gotten that, go ahead. You can watch this on the replay, but everybody else, come on in. Tonight's conversation is going to be something that is going to help you in every area of your life. And I am excited tonight that we can bring this meaningful conversation to you. Tonight, our guest is a certified wellness coach. This isn't just one of those long talks where we bring in our brothers and bring in, somebody from the family just to talk to us. No, tonight we have a certified wellness coach specializing in corporate wellness, also in lifestyle coaching. She also does executive coaching for CEOs and upper management individuals, and as well as private consulting. She's done this with individuals, again, businesses, because this is what she has really purposed for her life to do, is to help individuals maintain mental wellness. And she holds many credentials, academic credentials. She is up for her doctorate in marketing and international business. She also has just done so much with certification as it relates to leadership and helping individuals with making sure that they understand strategic operations. I've had the chance of dealing with her in times past with her high level of detail to administration and making sure that not only when administration demands what it demands, but she has done it with so much class and so much dignity. And tonight I am so happy that she has taken the time. This certified wellness coach is here tonight on Long Talk. So with no further ado, Long Talk audience, please help me welcome our dear sister, Miss Monica Jackson. How you doing tonight, Miss Monica?
Hello there, Daunta. I'm doing wonderful, and yourself?
Doing great, doing great. Trust all is going well for you.
All is going well. There's so much that's going on in our city and our nation, and I'm glad we're having this much needed conversation tonight. I want to, first of all, encourage everybody to click, like, and share this meaningful conversation tonight. We will greatly appreciate it. And we're just going to get started right into it. There's just so much to discuss on this topic.
Well, Monica, I agree with you wholeheartedly. But before we do that, I know I introduced you, but just tell our audience just a little bit more about you for those that may not know exactly who Monica Jackson is.
Sure. Well, I'm originally from Miami, Florida, where beaches and palm trees hang out at. I found my way to Atlanta about 15 years ago, did my graduate work here. Have always had a passion to help people live a well-integrated lifestyle. So in doing that, I pursued a degree and a career that would put me in the best of both worlds. And when I say in the best of both worlds, I mean those who are faith-based and then those who are corporate. I enjoy helping people make great decisions, make sound decisions, look at operational strategy and see how we can get from point A to point B within staying in budget, how we can tap into innovation, how we can do what we call that Six Sigma, cutting the fat from organizations and churches to make it real more lean. And so I've had the joy of doing that over 20 years, working again in both worlds. So I just completed a certification at the University of South Florida in post-crisis leadership to help my clients move through this whole COVID, because as you know, it's a new world order. Things are not the same. Things are different. The way we do business, we're moving heavily into that digital space. So it's really to help us all kind of move together and run with a different horsepower.
Oh my goodness. And so tonight you're fresh off of specific training to help individuals during this COVID and this crisis moment in our time. And that's the prime reason for tonight's conversation, mental wellness rather, in the middle of the crisis, because so many individuals are continuing to deal with the effects of having gone through a multiplicity of offsets. And here on Long Talk, we get so many requests from many of our listeners, whether they're asking us for assistance financially, or if they're asking for us to point them to a resource, or in the faith-based arena, we get messages asking for prayer, or asking us to point them to a counselor or somebody that can sit down and talk with them. Crisis. We know a lot of people have lost loved ones over the last few months. And so I just wanted to give you this opportunity to really help and aid our audience with, again, as you have eloquently said before, strategies, and making sure that they are able to handle and cope with what it is that they have gone through, are going through, or even, I hate to say, will even perhaps go through, because we know that this crisis is far from over. So that's where we are tonight. Monica, if you don't mind, I've taken some notes down, and I just really want to dig in, as you said a moment ago. I want to ask you just a few of these questions, and if you don't mind, just kind of comb through as much as you can to help our audience, because I know that you've got a lot to say, and I want to make sure that we do our very best to handle as much of it as you can pour out to us today. All right?
Okay.
And the first thing I want to ask you, in the midst of this crisis, so many have gone through a level of conflict, whether it be the loss of a loved one. Even as recent, we know that there were some family battles on whether or not one had authority to administer the last rites, and another family member was in opposition. In the business sector, we know that terminations, managers and employees that have had great working relationships, but now because of the low performance of where our economy is, many of those relationships in the business sector have been severed, and we know that's very tenuous. Is there any way to avoid these type of high volatile situations that render conflict?
Well, Dante, the first thing you have to realize that we're a society. So when you're dealing with humanity, there will be conflict. Sometimes conflict can come from unmet expectations, can come from disappointment, and it can simply come from knowing how to confront an issue without offending. And that's an art all by itself. Because we are human, we have those human frailties. A lot of times we say stuff and we don't always mean it, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's domestically, whether it's, within the family unit. I've learned over the last, I would say, 10 years, if you follow these 3 words, I'm sorry, maybe you're right, or I didn't see it that way. And so what you do when you start to just look at the whole spectrum of, trying to figure out this whole conflict, you have to be able to go in and disarm that person that you're dealing with. Sometimes it's a group. I know those who are in the college arena, sometimes we're put together with groups and everybody's not turning in their term paper or what have you. And so you have those unmet expectations that somewhat cause friction. So what you have to do is learn how to climb above that, take the lower road and say, you know what, for the betterment of either this company, either our marriage or relationship, either for us to get along as sisters or even neighbors. I have 2 neighbors and they're actually fighting now over where the fence line is at. And one neighbor saying, "You're on my fence." And then he had the fence company come out and say, "No, you're 2 inches on my fence." So you have to learn the art of dealing with conflict. And when you look at, "I'm sorry, maybe you're right," or "I didn't see it like that," that helps to really disarm you just about in any arena. And learning how to confront without offending,
Mm-hmm.
because we just want to get our point across. So sometimes you got to step into that person and see. Sometimes it could be a cultural thing. You
Mm.
know, for all my sisters and brothers that are from different islands, they have different cultural expectations. So sometimes you have to disarm to arm and bring peace, bring that peace treaty.
I was just today. I'll give you a real life solution with that, Monica. Couple of people were writing this on Facebook that they are growing upset that so many public educators are lifting their voices
Hmm.
against. They see it as against their children, and so many are saying that you're not going to use the digital space to holler or lift your voice or what they deem disrespect my child. And I'm going to get in front of that camera and I'm going to make sure I tell that teacher I'm the only one that's going to lift my voice against the child. That's my child you talking to, right?
Right.
How do we deal with the situations like that?
Well, again, because we're on nations at Dante, you're dealing with civil unrest, you're dealing with economic depression, whether we
Mm-hmm.
want to face it or not. You're dealing with worldwide protests. So there's a lot of friction that's already drummed up in our society.
Yeah.
So by the time you involve parents and children, and now children have to be homeschooling, when you're talking about dealing with resolving conflict with parents, because every parent protects their child,
Mm-hmm.
every administrator protects the bylaws of the school or the principal. I worked in education maybe about 15 years ago as well. And those students, I was at risk school in Broward County. Let me tell you, that's how I learned the song "Sorry Miss Jackson," because they would constantly come to my class late and start singing that song because my last name is Jackson. And so when you're talking about dealing with children, everybody think their kids are these saints, which they are, but you have to be able to say, you know what, here are the rules, and if you break the rules, then there's consequences. The same thing if parents are coming, my kid didn't get their links, just so many things are happening. But you have to understand, did you tune into the parent teacher meeting? Did they go to orientation? So
Mm-hmm.
you have to learn when you're talking about dealing with conflict resolution, Dante, you also have to bring that person to some levels of accountability.
Mm. Mm.
So once you start dealing, especially with education, in the educational arena, it's all about accountability. Everybody's accountable. Students, teachers, administrators, the whole
Mm-hmm.
nine yards. So being accountable makes the difference.
Mm.
You know when your child late, you know when they ain't turning their homework. You've been with them for the last 24 hours. You know they're mouthy. You stay with them. So when they come on my campus, we're not tolerant. We have a zero tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
These are the rules. And if they break them, we'll hear the consequences. So
Mm.
just be prepared.
So to all those parents who are telling them to really, your child, right?
Yes. You know your child and put things in place. So if you know your child, maybe don't focus as well as they should, or they have a certain learning ability that they're trying to really achieve,
Mm-hmm.
then you already know. And here's another thing we're talking about diffusing conflict resolution,
Mm-hmm.
communication. Communication, you're communicating expectations. Well, Tommy, he doesn't read as fast, or Tommy, he's a super reader. So that teacher needs to give him something a little more. Again, it's all about communicating those expectations with that student.
And it's funny I think it's not funny, but rather it's so appropriate that you're talking about communicating, because one of the things that I have found that most of us are just not listening. We are so focused on making sure that, Monica, do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Monica, I need you to hear me.
Right.
But then when I finish going on and on about what it is that I need for you to know, and that you better know, and that you need to understand, and that what you have failed to understand, and why I think you should do better. And then when it becomes time for your rebuttal, is it that I become so satisfied that I finally got it off my chest that I don't listen? Or how can I do better at listening during this time where there's high friction and tension?
Well, listening is a very critical skill. Attentive listening. So you have selective listening, attentive listening, critical listening, sensitized listening. There's all categories of listening. But when we're talking about the future of a child, and rather, especially if they're in elementary, that determines what his performance will be when he gets to middle school, high school, college, career. So listening, and sometimes you got to step back, Dante, and hear what a person is not saying. So sometimes we put those layers up. You're not going to tell me what to do. I'm going to PE. I'm going to this. Because that protection is saying, it's still talking about conflict resolution. That protection is saying, I am good at sports. I may not be good at academics. I would like to go to PE all day because that's what I'm good at. That's my scholar level. But you just, as a teacher, you just have to swing them back and say, you know what? You could be good at all of this if you put the effort and the time in it, you know. So I think, and as a former educator, I used to always like to tell my parents, you know, we're in it as a team. You know, when they've been with me 7 to 8 hours, and I've told them, don't come in my classroom late. Where's your science? Don't bring Burger King in my room, like a whole bunch of other stuff. At the end of the day, you know, I have to share with those parents, we are a unit. We're a team. Your child can't see me fight against you, and vice versa. So you just got to work as a team to really peel those layers off of any fear that that child may be having.
Monica, if I can switch gears for a minute, I've been on Zoom calls since 7 this morning. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Right? I'm tired. I've been on Zoom calls since I had a 7 o'clock meeting, a 9 o'clock meeting, an 11 o'clock meeting. I didn't even get a chance to finish my lunch because I had to run to another meeting. Jumped off Zoom, then fooled around and got on Skype, and back to Zoom and Skype, and just so many meetings after meetings after meetings after meetings. How in the world do you expect me to listen to all of the content of 10 meetings in one day?
Time management, putting time, you know, you have to download. I was telling a client earlier, you know, about ways that we can really counter some of this weight that we're feeling during the COVID. And one of the things I said, you have to sketch out that time for you, you know, and making sure, Dante, that you don't move into overload. You know, when you walk out, you got to put on your mask. You got to social distancing. I often tell people social distancing is not social isolation. And we'll talk about that maybe next week.
Sure.
So social distancing, you know, we're also social distancing, but that doesn't mean you have to social isolate. And so you still need to be connected. We were wired to be connected. But back to addressing your question, sometimes you got to know when to say, okay, this is enough, even if it's part of your job, and feel yourself, you know, kind of feel yourself pulsating and say, you know what, I'm going to do these calls. I'm going to do my people return back calls. And then this is going to be it. So you don't reach burnout. You want to avoid burnout. And a lot of times, because we're working from home, we're on Zoom. Zoom is all a lot of us have right now. to connect with the world, to connect with employees, clients, staff members, vendors. So you have to be able to, number one, say, excuse me, this is what I'm going to do. And you know what has helped me in the long run? Where like three to 4:30 each day, that's when I return all my calls. Um, from 7 to 8, that's my meditation hour. That's where I get my mind going. That's my quiet time. Then I move into my day. And you know what I find? If I stick to a schedule, I'm much happier in the evening. And you know what else, Dante? I've had to learn to say no to some things too. So
Whoa,
the
say that
power
again,
of
Monica. You had to do what?
learn how to say no, no, N-O to some things.
But Monica, you need to be on this call at 5 o'clock.
I know. Listen, if it's not an emergency, second of all, if it's a decision-making call, because everything you got to look at, what category does it fall into? Am I needed? Can you provide me a report or an update? So that way I get the best version of myself to the things that I need to do. I don't have to be on every Zoom call, but those who I need to be, those calls that I need to be on, then those who I will be. If you can give me a report, an update, and I could just read it during my meditation time or do it during lunch or while I'm folding clothes. So it's really making the best use of your time, especially during this pandemic, because we're homeschooling. We have a lot going on. We're working from home. So we're sharing space with our second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth graders. So it's a lot going on.
And can I add one more layer to this cake, if you don't mind, Monica?
Sure.
My brother likes to call me 10 o'clock at night all the time. And you know what? I'm thinking this, and I'm not gonna say it out loud. I think he likes to call me just because he likes to hear himself talk. Do I really have to sit up and listen to him every night just because he wants to call me?
Yeah, but you know what? Our brothers and sisters, Dante, they have a place in our lives too. It may not be 10 o'clock at night, but we have to find that sweet spot that we can still connect. Because our siblings get very territorial. You didn't answer my call. Well, where were you at? It's like, excuse me. I'm very close to my sister. We're 2 years apart. And, I often have to tell her, listen, I have a life too. But you know what it is? It's expectations. So sometimes, especially during this pandemic, we have to communicate our expectations. Hey, Michael, I would love to chat with you. Catch me out at the basketball practice. Sometimes you have to juggle that time. My days are filled with meetings, so weekends may work better. Like Sunday evenings, that's my family time. I get on the phone, and whoever answers, they answer. Who don't. But that's my time because I know during the week, I'm meeting with clients, I'm creating content, and I just can't sit on the phone with you at 10 o'clock at night.
But Monica, I called you Monday and you didn't pick up my call. Why? What was you doing, Monica? Why you didn't pick up my call?
Because again, it's that expectation. I can't pick up your call. Why? Because I am busy building my life. I'm building my brand. I'm working my business. So if I'm on the phone with you, brother, when do I have time to do that? So again, it goes back to priorities, setting priorities. Number 2, time management, and being able to compartmentalize. All right, I can call him back. I need to get this call. Because if not, we have one thing in common. We all have 24 hours. Now, how you invest your 24 hours will determine your outcome for the next week, for the next month, for your life, for your legacy. So it's very important that you put things in place to really kind of guard your time. I'm not saying not to be social, but just to guard your time.
Wow.
Sometimes it can move to that conflict. Sometimes it can get a little grainy because their expectations. Listen, my sister called me. She's like, can you tell me about a recipe? I was like, can you Google it and find it on YouTube? And
Yeah.
I bet you, instead of me sitting 20 minutes, so I just saved myself 20 minutes because I didn't have to sit and tell her how to bake this cake or whatever she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
That so you gotta sometimes help people help themselves, you know.
Mm.
So and then it just worked for the best of us. And she was like, "Oh look, I did a wonderful job at the cake."
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Helping people help themselves, especially during this COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. Monica, listen, we want to take a quick break. And after the break, I got to let you know, every time I hear your voice, I can't stand it. I won't talk about that when we come right back, okay? All right. We'll be right back.
You're sitting at the light again, late for work, with 101 different things going through your mind. Things like texting your coworker or listening to the morning drive time. When suddenly you're startled from a loud sustained hug from the rear, you're embarrassed. The light has turned green and it's time for you to go. Introducing the road trip. Life is a trip, so read the signs. By Dr. Joelle Trout. Stop, yield, go. Construction zone ahead. It's amazing that we have less accidents when the signs in of themselves have no power to enforce. Yet they inform, guide, direct, and warn us of the potential dangers ahead. This ebook encourages you to apply a deeper meaning to the spiritual context of these ambiguous signs so we can safely navigate through this thing called life and arrive at our destination in one piece. The Road Trip. Life's a trip, so read the signs. By Dr. Joelle Trout. Order your copy today.
We're back here on Long Talk this evening with our special guest, Miss Monica Jackson, wellness coach, that has really been helping us through really dealing with a lot during this crisis moment. And this conversation has been so beneficial, as so many people already are commenting about how this dialogue is really speaking to where they are in their life. And Monica, I told you right before the break that, I got to be honest. Every time I hear your voice, it makes me cringe. Every time I see him, I'm ready to say one more word. Say one more word. I read in some of your dialogue that you were writing, you said that we cannot take, how'd you say it? You said it here. You said, we cannot take everything so personal. Can't take everything so personal. Why do you suggest that?
Well, when you start to cringe, first of all, there is something called internal conflict. And we'll get a little more about when you start digesting negative thoughts, negative vibes where certain people are at. But the root of it is unresolved conflict. And we was talking a little bit about confronting issues without offending. And when you have unresolved conflict, it's actually to your detriment than the person you're actually holding the grudge to. And the reason why I say that, one is it's affecting, number one, your physical body. Number two, it's affecting your social skills, your interaction skills. Number three, you could be missing out on a wonderful relationship, a wonderful networking, a world of networking. But because you have not resolved that conflict, then that's an issue. And Dante, do you know some people hold grudges and conflict for years, and it becomes embedded in them, whether it's their in-laws, whether it's a neighbor, whether it's the car salesman, whether it's your your ex-wife or ex-husband or ex-girlfriend. When you digest that and you don't allow yourself to release them, you are asking for trouble, both emotional, especially emotional. So I would say to anybody that is dealing with unresolved issue, give yourself the gift of forgiveness. Let them go, let it go. And even if that person is deceased, even if it means you writing them a letter and just going to the beach or some water somewhere and just release. But you got to release them. And I know it's hard. They hurt you. And the worst thing is betrayal. But you have to get to the other side of it because you don't want to go through life, he hurt me, she hurt me. But if you can, at least number one, acknowledge, okay, they've offended you or betrayed your trust. But number two, you're going to forgive them. That is the best gift you can give yourself. And
say that again, Monica. Say that again.
If you can learn to forgive them, will yourself to forgive them, it's the best gift. Let me tell you, you're talking about liberation. You will be liberated on so many levels. Listen, and sometimes it takes time. It may take some years, but you got to get to the point where, and then secondly, let me just go spiritual. You don't want your prayers to be hinged up because you didn't forgive Johnny, and sometimes it's, people do take things, Dante, personally.
Mm-hmm.
You're addressing something and they just take it personally. And guess what? It's because of their idiosyncrasies. It's because of their poor self-image. And they have projected what you were maybe mentioning or addressing in a group. They've just projected on themselves that, oh, she's talking about me. Oh, she's talking about my child.
And how many times, Monica, have we had to say, I wasn't even talking to you?
Exactly. Like, dude, I was talking to Michael, or I was not. And it's because that person have unresolved issues that they have not addressed, maybe from a child, a young adult. He left me with 5 kids. He left my mom. I mean, there's so many issues that plague us that, again, if you can get in that space of forgiveness and release, listen, you got to have yourself a release party, Dante, sometimes in life, because it's not worth it. And I've been there, hearing somebody's voice. I start rolling my eyes at the sound, at the sound of their voice. But when I made a decision, you know what, I'm going to forgive her. Things just started opening up amazingly.
You said you made a what? You made a what?
A decision.
A decision. Did anybody force you to do that, Monica?
Nope, you got to do it on your own. You have to say, I'm better than this, that this offenses are choking me. It's choking the life out of me. It's choking the way I think, my mindset. It's choking my focus. That's what offenses will do. So you have to make a choice, Dante, to say, I am going to forgive him or her and release them. Even if they're dead, you can still release them. Release them to God. Release them to whoever, but just release them and make a decision. So again, when you hear that person, and I know for a fact it works because it has happened to me, that when you release them, all things, it just comes together.
Yeah. Monica, not to exhaust the issue, but just received this comment. You just don't understand. I've been cooped up in this house with these kids for 4 months.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take a vacation, but I can't go anywhere. I'm about to pull my hair out. I'm about to lose my mind. I'm tired of looking at my husband, my wife. I just want to go somewhere.
Yeah.
What can a person do if they're feeling like that in this moment?
Well, and that's perfectly normal to feel that way. I would say if you can, depending on what state you're in, if you're in a hot spot state, see if you could do a couple things. You could do staycations. Number 2, you could do family activities. And I know a lot of people, they was like, I don't want to do another Netflix because I'm out of Netflix movies. However, but you have to see yourself coming out of the pandemic. It's not going to last forever. It's just maybe another few months of inconvenience, but we will get to the other side, ladies and gentlemen. So if you can sometimes just hold on. I'm helping, babysit my nephew he's 10 years old, and boys are active. He wanted to go out and play basketball. Then I'm like, no, I got things to do. But what I do is I just negotiate the time. So if I can't do something, I say, hey, well, listen, Walker, I'll double your time at Sky Zone. Got it. So that means 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours at Sky Zone. So you just have to be able to navigate to that person who asked that question, navigate your time. When it comes to that spousal relationship, I know we're locked in. We can't go to concerts. We can't go to ball games, clubs. Well, we're in Atlanta. So, I mean, things are open, but, so you just have to be creative. So my next point would be creative. Cooking s'mores on the oven with the kids, just as creative as you could be creative.
Be
And know
creative.
that we're going to get to the other side sooner than later.
I'm sorry, I didn't see it like that, right?
Yeah, yeah, we're going. It's just a small inconvenience. That's it. We won't be in the pandemic forever. We always won't have to wear masks. If you look at all the other pandemics from 1821, 1921, you see gradually they came out of it. So we're coming out. We're coming out.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Monica, we got so much more to cover. I don't know if we're going to have enough time, but I'm going to try to squeeze these in. Where do I start? Moving, because I've got so much built up frustration. I'm lashing out. Right? I'm just lashing out. But are we doing enough empathizing, seeing ourselves in the other person, or seeing ourselves in that solution? In that problem, seeing how perhaps we would be negatively affected? How can we empathize better in our responses to individuals who we have grown upset with, frustrated with, perhaps disenchanted with, or just apathetical towards at this point?
So when you look at, well, let me unpack that question like this. When you look at dealing with people have expectations, false expectations of individuals. You didn't meet my expectation. And then sometimes it's what's going on with that person to cause them to lash out. My mom didn't listen to me. Now my girlfriend's not listening to me. And now my new wife is not listening to me. Well, it is a reason why we're not listening to you. Maybe you're not one that's keeping your word. Maybe you're not one that's not following through on the follow through. Maybe you're not keeping what you covenant to do. So you always have to look at the underlying issue. When people are lashing out, they're just not lashing out. People that's a serial killer or murderer, and I'm going to tread gingerly here, they just don't wake up and decide, oh, I'm going to kill 10 people today. I'm very sensitive to that, so I'm not making light of it. But you have to understand there's a level of escalation that just goes on. If you study serial killers, most of them a lot of them have the same traits. So you just have to figure out what is fueling that person to lash out. Sometimes it's just pent up anger. And pent up anger is nobody's listening to me. Or I'm 50 years old and I'm not as successful as I want to be. So there's all different levels to this, Daunta, but having that level of compassion, and I have to turn the wheels to the spirituality. You got to kind of see them as Jesus saw them, and figure out they've come from different walks. Some of us have been adopted. Some of us have been raised in single family. I'm not making excuses. But there's so many other reasons why people lash out. So sometimes you have to see, like, you know what, that's not her today. That's not him. That's not Jim. Something's going on, especially with coworkers. That's not her. She was just our teacher of the year 5 years ago. I know her. That's not her. Or he's always a team leader. He's having a bad day. So sometimes you got to really pull yourself up and say, that's not them. And I'm going to give them another chance. Everybody has a bad day. Yeah, everybody has a bad day, you know. Because people are like, oh, I'm going to slap her, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do. No, just pull back. Sometimes just pull back. If you see them, and especially when people start, Dante, emotionally shutting down, you already know it's something going on internally, you know. And so you just got to get them to a point of talking.
Wow.
Yeah.
Recognizing that perhaps this just isn't that day,
Yeah.
and making sure that we don't do anything to make the situation any more volatile
Yeah.
or as fluid as it is. We don't want to strike a match to that which is already explosive, right?
Yeah, it's already to a boiling point. So when you're talking about boiling water, you keep it boiling, it'll boil right over, or the water just boil right out. So, and a lot of times people need a cushion, and you may just be that person's cushion. When I say a cushion, meaning that person that they can just exhale while you inhale their frustration. That they could just breathe. Sometimes we need to just take a deep breath and tell ourselves it's going to be all right, especially during this crisis, especially during, I keep reading that the divorce rates are so high, which again, that's unresolved conflict. That's all it is because this was our covenant. This is what we had. Somewhere along the line, the covenant was infringed upon, and we were never able to repair it. So that's basically all what divorce boils down to. So again, especially during this pandemic, we want to be very sensitive to one another, sensitive to one another's needs. The other day I was in the grocery store. You know how you're supposed to be 6 feet, apart. But I just rolled up on the lady with my shopping cart. And she turned around, she looked at me like, excuse me, ma'am. And I was just like, you know what, ma'am, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yes, that word. Now, it just diffused. I'm sorry. Thank you. Maybe you're right. I didn't see it like that. Those 4 will disarm any situation.
Monica, I'll give you a quick testimony. I serve as a senior pastor of a church, and I'll never forget last year I was at the end of a meeting. We had a big meeting at our church, and immediately staff came to me and said, that didn't happen. That didn't happen. We could have did that better. And Pastor, you didn't. And all I said was, guys, I'm sorry. I apologize for everything that went wrong. And I never forget, one of the members stood up and said, Pastor, you always saying you sorry. And I put a smile on my face. I said, you know what? That means I have tried to shape a culture of forgiveness.
Yeah.
I would later find out that one of my mentors said, only a fool will continue to argue with someone who's yielding an apology.
Yeah.
You agree with that, Monica?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And leaders apologize. Leaders lead. Leaders is the first to say, hey, I made a mistake. Maybe we shouldn't have done that. Maybe we shouldn't have bought these books. Maybe we shouldn't have bought these pews, whatever the case may be. But leaders always acknowledge, I'm the first to say, I made a mistake. And when you say you sorry, that gets everybody back on track with you. I'm sorry goes a long way. Even if you're having a bad day, we've been talking about conflict resolution all night. Even when you're over your bad day, ladies and gents, then go back and say, you know what, guys, I'm sorry. I was having a bad day. Apologize to your staff. Sorry. It's not a good day. I got a lot going on at home, or a lot going on with, me trying to build some other stuff and other things, but learning how to say sorry and thank you will go a long way.
But Monica, if we swing the pendulum, so many people will say, I didn't do nothing wrong and I'm not going to apologize. I'll die before I apologize.
Well, you know what? That's a person that has a lot of blind spots. And that's a person, not to prejudge, but that's a person that's going to have some conflict resolution problems, not knowing how to navigate. Because a lot of people always do that. That is a defense mechanism. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not apologizing. And if you have to say, if you have to put if, then you already know you have offended. Dante, you've already offended. You already know that person. You know how we say, if I've done, it's almost like an anthem. If I've done anything wrong. Well, you already know you have. Because
I'm
you
sorry
haven't.
you took it that way, Monica.
Exactly. Well, it's the way in which you've said it. And sometimes for different people, different strokes for different folks, we have to learn how to approach them. Approaching, talking to people without offending. Well, you already know Rochelle is very sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
She's sensitive, her mom's sensitive, and it's nothing wrong with that. That's just who they are. So sometimes you may have to lower your tone, lower your voice. You have to approach her a little differently. Hey, did you turn in the homework? Hey, do you have that report? You just have to know as a leader, even a leader in your home, leader in your job, how to really approach people to disarm them, have enough influence to get them on board so you can complete your projects and everybody can get raises.
Everybody could get raises.
And let's hope. Absolutely. Well, here's the thing, because when you have that level of productivity, it yields itself to innovation. It yields itself to impacting the company's bottom line. And if a company is profitable, more than likely they're going to share their gains in some level of salary, increase in most cases.
Wow. Monica, I was just at the expense of not being too political. I just want to share with you this morning. I was on a conversation with a political strategist, and we were talking about the Senate race here in Georgia and how we've got individuals that are just staying in the race right now when we don't see a pathway for them to win at all. They don't have the money. They don't have the support. They're actually blocking a candidate from possibly winning a seat that has not been won in well over 2 decades. And I remember asking the question, shouldn't the stakeholders in this particular party call those guys and say, look, you need to get out of the race and just take one for the team? And I want to ask you, is it best sometimes, even though I have my own initiatives, I've got my own aspirations, Monica, you just don't know. I want to, I've got to, I must. But if there's no pathway for that success, is it best that I just do what they say on the street, take one for the team?
Well, you can, in some cases, definitely take one for the team. If it's not going to compromise nobody's integrity, nobody's character, if the consequences are not, horrifying, it's fine to take one for the team, basically. Most times, especially in the political arena, people, kind of side to say, hey, I'm going to stick with my race or what party I'm going for. But take one for the team. It's nothing wrong with that. I know a lot of like fraternities and sororities, and they stick very close together. That's who they are. That's their culture. I honor them. I celebrate them. But that's a good example with if you need to take one for the team. A lot of people have grew up together, and hey, I'm gonna go low so somebody could go high, but without compromising. Without compromising. Long as there's no compromising there, then you're good.
Compromising for the best possible result for everybody, right?
Exactly, exactly, exactly. That down the line, because sometimes you'll hear somebody, oh, I'm gonna take one for the team. I'm gonna take one, but down the line, sometimes that means wasn't well spelled out, what that actually looked like. And it caused people some discomfort, maybe a year or two down the line. People's actions. People mean well, Dante, on most days. They mean well.
Monica,
we,
I just said that today to a group I was consulting. I said, guys, trust me, for the most part. Now, there are some just straight out cantankerous people in the world.
right.
And in my opinion, they are very easy to identify, spot, and stay, far away from. But for the most part,
hmm
most people mean well.
Most people, and they have a genuine heart. And if you've seen anybody to kind of come out of character in the last 6 months, it's because we're focusing on the unknown. We're dealing with isolation, number two. We're dealing with civil unrest, number
Mm-hmm.
three. And like I said earlier when we started, the whole protesting, our black men are under a lot of attack, with the police brutality. So it's a lot of things that are going on that the pressure, the steam is just steaming up. And so by the time you get to that person, they mean well, but it's the unknown. Jobs have been lost. So sometimes you have to be patient, and just know that, hey, they didn't mean any harm. Everybody deserves a bad day. It's okay. We'll get through this together. I've been seeing signs around town.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get through it together. We will get through it together. I believe it.
We're going to, and I always think about the scripture at the expense of sounding too much like a preacher tonight, where it says, to the pure, all things are pure.
Come on.
And I
Yeah.
just, I think that so many of us during this time, if we are to just look at the big picture and realize it's all of us are struggling with some type of something or some things that have been offset due to the crisis, right?
Yeah.
But the bigger picture is, and again, if you agree, I mean well, I'm still trying to do the best I can.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? You talked about earlier about your brother calling. Sometimes we've had friends and loved ones with this whole COVID and really being emotionally sound, psychologically sound, and mentally sound. We've had so many deaths. I mean, at least one person have been impacted by COVID, whether it's a neighbor. I mean, you're talking about going in the hospital and coming out if their lives are spared. But not only that, but then you have the whole pressure, Dante, of having people to die alone. That is the most fearful thing. So if you put that in the mix of things, people are trying to get to loved ones in nursing homes and long-term care facilities where they're looking at the window, just touching their hand. Like that is a lot of emotional pressure. And we have to be patient with one another. We really do.
Monica, so you touched me when you said that. I remember talking with a chaplain buddy of mine, and he said to me, he said, Dante Long, the main reason why I love working in the VA is that I get to be in the room with veterans when they take their last breath so that they don't have to die alone.
Oh,
He said because he said in his opinion, the absolute worst feeling in the world is to die in isolation.
and then here's the thing, we drop some of our loved ones off, because they have symptoms. And sometimes that's the last that we see of them. And they have to, now they have robots that can bring the phones into them on FaceTime. Like, we're not even wired to handle that level of grief or handle that level of loss. So, yes, we do need to be patient with one another. That person that you see at the bank, okay, so they got in front of you in the line. It's okay. It's bigger fish to fry out there, and we really, really have to learn how to love on one another. I mean, conflict will always be there. That's how we're wired. But because we're in this pandemic, we need a level of sensitivity. Number one, that can say, you know what, it's going to be all right, and just start practicing it. Hey, sis, it's going to be all right. Texting people, hey, stay strong. It's we're coming through this together because this pandemic has really it's beyond a crisis. It's really, and you have to be able to stay mentally fit, spiritually fit to get through it, and especially relational fit. You know, you have to I like to say prayer proof your marriages because the enemy is after them, especially during this pandemic because you're locked inside, you know, or if you're in a relationship, you know, I hope you like the person you're with. That's a side joke. But, you know, let's love one another. Let's be patient. Let's be kind to one another. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's be kind. Let's keep smiles on our faces, right?
Yeah, all
Let's
the time.
let's keep our voices down. And again, I know the teacher raised her voice at your child this morning, but you know, she's got 25 or 30 of those kids at one time.
Yeah. And now they're trying to do it online. You know, a lot of the school districts are doing classes online.
And
So
guess
there is a growth curve for both the educator and the learner. So
and
your
after
parents
this
need to,
conversation, Monica, somebody's gonna say, guess what? I never thought about it like that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. That's why I'm so grateful for this long talk show where it's helping people live an integrated lifestyle. Hats off to you for doing this. It's the perfect timing to address so many social ills that are plaguing our families, our communities, our loved ones. So I just want to say hats off to you, Dante.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And I just want to say to everybody tonight, as you have been, hopefully some part of this conversation has spoke to you, and you want to hear more from Monica. You want to stay connected. You want to see what she's doing as she is putting out just a high volume of information each week. Connect with her at MONI Jackson. You can find her there on Instagram and follow her in other places. Lastly, I want to say, if you say, because I know we got a lot of people that watch to say, I'm on Facebook, I don't do Instagram, I don't do Twitter, I don't fool with that. And then some people, I've got an older crowd, believe it or not, and I'm always thankful. I've never said this publicly, but some family members were telling me, I'm almost embarrassed to say it. Monica, they say to me, they say, Danny, what we do is, cuz put you on that phone thing, and then next thing we know, you be on the TV. I don't know how he do it, but Danny, you be looking good up there. And I be, thank you, thank you.
Listen, all power to our older folks and our families, our elders. Yes. At least they're watching. You got to give it to them. They're watching it.
I'm so, and I'm just thankful for all that watch. But I say all of that to say you can gain more comprehensive information if you will follow Monica by going to monicajacksonwellness.com. Go to her website, sign up as she continues to do great things. Monica, I am so thankful that you took your time out of your busy schedule to chat with us. Monica, we didn't even get halfway through. I hate to do this online, but would you consider coming back on Thursday to finish this conversation?
I will.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I will. It's my honor. It's my privilege. We're on a journey together, all of us. So
absolutely.
Let's do this together. Let's do life together while we're in this pandemic. So yes, I certainly accept the invitation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you. Stay with us, Monica. We're going to end this show, but stay with us if you don't mind.
All right. Thank you.
Friends, tonight, what a meaningful dialogue. It is my sincere hope that you receive something beneficial that will now change the outcome of all of the relationships of your life, whether it's the family dynamic, you're working in a job, your business, you own the business. You now know how to be a little more patient with the employees. You're an employee. You understand your boss, your manager just had a bad day. There's always tomorrow. Your brother or your sister, your husband, your wife, your children, whatever the relationship, your neighbor. So please, we don't need any more neighbor disputes. Some of my police buddies have said we are out here because neighbors are fighting in the street. Listen, tell your neighbor, listen, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut your grass. I didn't know that was your dog. You know, whatever it is. Just go to the neighbor and apologize tomorrow morning. All right? Do something kind. Stop by one of your local restaurants. Grab an extra entree. Give it to your neighbor. Hey, take some coffee in for the entire staff. Man, that ain't my company. Hey, but listen, you don't know what kind act you can do just simply tomorrow for maybe just a few dollars that could really change the entire morale. And then, listen, that environment won't be so toxic anymore. And I pray that you got that out of this conversation tonight. All right? Listen, again, I want to say this, a few more hours. Special. I need you to take a special 30 minutes or 45 minutes. Text everybody. Hey, listen, are you registered to vote? Are you registered? And if they are not, listen, take time tonight to make sure that you lead them to a pathway to get them registered to vote. You don't know how to do it. Google it, how to register someone to vote. You can do that in just a few seconds. Many of them can do it digitally, or there are still some paper registration forms. As we're getting all souls to the polls, those of us in the faith community, we're going to do everything. I mean, we're going to fire up church vans. We're going to rent vans. We're going to make sure everybody, we're going to pass out thousands of absentee ballots. Somebody say, I don't trust them. Listen, it doesn't matter. Just as long as you vote, whether you're going to show up that day, absentee, however, I'm not here to tell you how to do it. I'm just here to make sure that you do it. All right. So do that. As you heard just a moment ago, Monica's going to come back with us on Thursday night. So listen, we didn't get a chance to finish all of our dialogue. So come back Thursday. We're going to finish this mental wellness because we want to make sure that everybody is as sober-minded and as clear-headed, and making sure that we release the tension, we clear out the toxicity. And you want to be with us on Thursday night as we dig deeper into this mental wellness conversation. All right? All right. Well, listen, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope that this Long Talk has been beneficial to you, and I can't wait to see you again on this Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Listen, enjoy the rest of this day. Get somebody registered to vote, and I'll see you Thursday night. God bless.
Follow us on Facebook at Daunta A. Long. Follow us on Instagram at Daunta Long. Follow us on YouTube at Daunta A. Long. Thank you for tuning in to Long Talk.